Hello and welcome to Amplify You, everyone. I'm Michelle Abraham, your host, and today I've brought you a really important guest that I just met last week, actually, at the New Media Summit. I was really intrigued by this person's story, and I wanted to bring him onto our podcast right away because I know he has some great information to really help some of our entrepreneurs that are out there struggling right now. So his name is Rennie Gabriel. He is a financial coach. And he has got this incredible story, which I'm going to let him tell in a few minutes again. And I just want to thank you for coming on today, Rennie, and welcome to our show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Anne, I noticed you introduced yourself as Shelley instead of Michelle.
No, I say Michelle. Just one quick. It was Michelle. It's always Michelle.
Oh, okay, good. Well, and then I can't hear. That's my problem at this age, I guess.
It could also be our bandwidth. We are struggling with lots of people on the Wi-Fi today and off the grid. And I do speak fast, so it's all good. So, Rennie, thanks so much for joining us today. You really help entrepreneurs overcome money issues. And so many of entrepreneurs in our population right now have been taught nothing about handling money correctly and how do we properly deal with money, and what are some things that are like mindset and stressors. I know money is a big stressor in a lot of relationships and businesses and families and all of the above. So today we're going to talk as much as we can about money and the mindset and things that are keeping us broke and the mindsets that might be keeping us broke. So Rennie, thank you for joining us today, and let's just dive in with your story. Let's hear how it all began for you.
Okay, well, yeah. And I think a little preamble to the story might make sense in that, you were talking about many entrepreneurs. The reality is 90% of the population's been taught nothing about money. I mean, think of it from the standpoint that parents can't teach what they don't know,
Okay.
and teachers can't teach what they've never learned. And it gets worse because I've spoken to hundreds of CPAs and said, in your coursework, did you learn how to do a personal budget or how to teach your clients how to do that, or a business budget or cash flow analysis? And the answer is no.
Oh.
So wait a second. If you're going to turn to your CPA because you didn't get from your parents or school and they haven't been taught, it gets really scary. Now, I'm certified as a financial planner, and I know doing a personal budget was not a part of my coursework either.
Wow. Even as a financial planner.
Even as a certified financial planner, it's sort of like, well, I know how to reduce taxes and I know how to handle investments and I know how to create a financial plan, but I don't even have the foundation of doing a personal budget.
Wow. I really wish they had taught that in school too, because something we leave high school with, and first thing in colleges we're greeted by all these credit card companies, and I signed up for tons, and it was in $3,000 worth of debt my first year of college. Not school,
Exactly.
just some free money.
Yeah, exactly. They're like drug dealers. Here, try this. Let me hook you. Yeah.
Right. Crazy.
So I wanted to put that out there before I even started with my own situation, because it's important to understand, like, well, wait a second, you're a certified financial planner. What do you mean you went broke twice and failed at business, and by the time you were 50, you had nothing and started over?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had 2 divorces and a business failure. Why? I was lacking the foundation. And what I realized at age 50 was that what I learned as a certified financial planner was not what wealthy people know and do. And so there are certain myths that I had that I realized I had to break up. It wasn't easy. And one of those was that wealthy people do not focus on paying off debt first. They use debt to create wealth. And I had credit card debts. I couldn't, I was making minimum payments at age 50, and I'm trying to get myself out of a hole. And I started doing something else that wealthy people do, and that's paying myself first. And that's a concept that's 5,000 years old. It works today. It worked 5,000 years ago. It'll work when you and I are dust. And a lot of people say, I can't pay myself first. I can't take 10% of what I'm earning and set it aside for later to invest because I won't be able to cover all my bills.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not true. That's a mindset problem.
Mm.
And, or people will say something like, well, the small amounts of money I'm spending don't matter. I mean, these are some of the myths, like I can't pay myself first. I've got to pay down debt first. I could spend small amounts of money and it doesn't really matter. Or, I need to earn more money, or my credit score sucks. These are the kinds of things that keep people stuck where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll if I remember what I just spit out, address every one of them, because
Yes,
they just flow out.
totally. I know as an entrepreneur, I've had every single one of those thoughts in my head too, because you see a bill there and a debt, and you want to pay that off before you pay yourself, right? Uh,
Exactly, that's right,
Amazing.
and that is not what works.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know what? I'll give you the best example, and
Mm-hmm.
that's from my personal experience. At age 50, like I said, I'm starting over. My book is called Wealth on Any Income, which is because I was only earning $5,000 a month
Mm-hmm.
and created a multi-million-dollar net worth out of that,
Mm.
starting at age 50.
Amazing.
But the first 3 years, I'm earning $5,000 a month. And what I did is I set aside $500 a month. So after 3 years, I'd saved up $18,000.
Mm.
Okay. I'm making minimum payments on my credit cards. I'm not focusing on paying them off. I'm focusing on what can I do to create a net worth. So at age 65, I'm not eating canned cat food.
Right.
Right. Um,
The time's a ticking, and you got the pressure on there. So
oh
something you
yeah,
had to
yeah,
think quickly on.
exactly. So, I took some calculated risks.
Yeah.
And one of the things I say all the time is wealth is a team sport. It
Mm-hmm.
is not a solo sport. These creating wealth you don't do by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so my wife had a realtor friend partner who found a little 3-unit building that we could buy,
Mm-hmm.
which I can't do for $18,000. But my wife chipped in $18,000. The realtor chipped in $36,000. So the three of us made the down payment on this triplex.
Mm-hmm.
We cleaned it up. I mean, I did manual labor because I couldn't afford to have someone else do the work. I mean, I spent my whole $18,000. But we were able to increase the rents because we improved the property.
Mm-hmm.
And about 5 years later, it was worth $500,000 more than when we purchased it.
Wow.
And what I saw during those 5 years was, you know what? This is going up in value. This is making sense. I borrowed more money to make down payments on more apartment buildings with my wife and that realtor.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to use their credit. A lot of people think, well, you need good credit to do this stuff. No, my credit sucked. I was broke when I started.
Mm-hmm.
My credit wasn't very good. Trying to figure out if it was at that time. No, anyway, there was a house that went into a short sale. Bottom line is, I couldn't qualify for any of this on my own. So their credit allowed us to make these purchases. I borrowed money to make down payments on more apartment buildings with them. And within about 6-7 years, we went from that first 3-unit building to 50
Wow.
apartment units.
Wow, that's incredible.
And yeah, it was a struggle the first few years. I mean, if a plumbing bill came in, it could have wiped out the profit for that month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, it wasn't all rosy as soon as we started, but by the 8th year, the revenue, the income from the apartment buildings was making the payments on my credit cards.
Mm.
Not only that, if a credit card bill came in, they were getting paid in full.
That's a nice feeling.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at is I was only able to make minimum payments until I built up a net worth where the revenue from that was able to make all the payments. So wealthy people, again, don't focus on paying off debt. They focus on how to use debt to create wealth. The banks gave us loans for the apartment buildings, and that debt created our wealth.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you think now, like to start over again in today's market, would that strategy still be applicable?
Yes, it would still work
I'm sure
today.
that's a question you get asked a
With
lot.
higher prices. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but one of the things I probably wouldn't do now,
Mhm.
Michelle, where are you located?
I'm up in Canada, in the Vancouver on the West Coast.
Okay, fine. So I'm down
Real
in
estate.
California.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably
$1 million
a little bit,
townhouses.
yeah, a little chilly there right now.
Yes.
Uh, but in California, the laws have shifted to the point where a lot of the social programs, the homelessness, are all blamed on landlords.
Mm,
When it's the cities that have created regulations that make it more and more and more expensive to build affordable housing.
mhm.
But the legislators don't understand that. They think if they just put more legislations in place and put in rent control and other restrictions, that'll solve the problem. All it does is compound it.
Right.
So, while I'm in California, I don't think I'd buy here,
Mhm.
but there are other parts of the United States, and I'm sure there are parts of Canada that it
Yeah.
makes sense to buy rental real estate.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, maybe not on the West Coast where it's super expensive, but that's why I was curious if it's still applicable strategy because real estate, value has gone up so much. But I think it's again a mindset thing where we think real estate's really expensive and there aren't any affordable things. Where I met a girl last week where she's buying mobile homes and flipping them and doing. She's a multimillionaire now doing that, which is fascinating.
Exactly. So she did it with mobile homes. People could do it with tiny homes. People could do it
Hmm.
with regular houses. They could do it with multi-unit properties. And it doesn't matter what the cost is now because real est- the level of real estate on the planet is not going to expand.
Hmm.
We only have what we have.
That's right.
So the prices are going to go up. And especially if the legislators impose more restrictions, whatever anyone bought is going to become more valuable.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
So anyway, so that's one of the myths is that, you have to pay down debt first before you take care of yourself.
Hmm.
Another myth is that, people think they need to earn more money. I think
Right.
I kind of dispelled that myth when I said all I was earning was 5,000 a month when I
Yeah.
was doing this. People think all debt is bad. No. Credit card debt for consumer items, that's bad.
Hmm.
Debt that allows you to build wealth is good.
Right.
And people need to understand that there's a distinction. And some people think it's actually rude to talk about money.
Right.
Well, that's another myth. Wealthy people talk about money.
Yeah.
I mean, they talk about what they paid for things and who they used the service for different services,
Hmm.
what investments make sense and what their price earnings ratios are, and all these kinds of terms that if people get educated on, they can be in money conversations.
Right. It's really uncomfortable, I think, probably for those that don't have it, or it's an awkward conversation. I think
Yeah,
probably. I don't know. I'm fine with talking about money, but some people, it's just a real interesting, interesting thing.
that's
People get really bent out of shape from talking about it.
exactly. The people who get the most bent out of shape are either they fall into two classes. One of them is they don't have it.
Hmm.
So they don't want to talk about it because they're feeling insecure because they don't have it. And the other group are people who just feel insecure.
Hmm.
And so they're not willing to talk about it.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So for people who are looking to get started, maybe accumulating wealth and perhaps through real estate, what are some things that we can maybe some things that we can do to change our mindset, thinking that that might be a scary or a
Yeah,
scary thing to get
probably.
into? Hmm.
Yeah, one of the mindsets really has to do with finding out where the money is going. I think one of the
Hmm.
other myths I talked about is people think spending small amounts of money don't
Hmm.
matter, like, spending
So,
$10 at Starbucks.
yeah.
Well, $10 a day or $300 a month,
Hmm.
if invested effectively, which I mean, I can still make investments at 12% in 30 years. I realize that seems like a long time, but if someone's 40, in 30
Hmm.
years, they'll be 70.
Hmm.
It's a $1 million portfolio. That's $10 a day can create $1
Hmm.
million. Well,
Yeah.
like I said, I was broke at 50. I didn't have some 30 years to look at. So I took
Yeah.
different risks. I
Right.
got involved. And maybe that's another thing to realize is that wealthy people don't give their money to someone else to take care of it. They
Hmm.
learn how to do it themselves.
Mm. That's an interesting
They are
set of
in
things.
control of their investments.
Yeah. And I think for entrepreneurs, if we can and talk about entrepreneurs in particular at the moment, I think that her the $10 a day at Starbucks, the latte factor, that is a dangerous thing. And I think for entrepreneurs, we also have a dangerous our kind of latte factor, I think, is like all these services and like online things that we need to manage social media or to like manage this. I know I spend tons of money where I'm like, do I really need this thing? Like, I swear, like I'm spending so much extra money on things that probably don't really need and just to streamline things. So I think in the entrepreneurial world, we get tempted by a lot of
A lot of
shiny
shiny objects.
objects, especially the things that make our life easier and the technology and like
Exactly. So one of the things that I learned how to do
Mhm.
was a personal budget. How much money is coming in?
Mhm.
Where is it coming from? And where am I spending it? And I actually created a little checkbook register. This was before you could get an app on your phone.
Mhm.
And I know there are hundreds and
Mhm.
hundreds of apps to track money right now, but I did it on paper.
Mhm.
It looked like a checkbook register. I tracked meals out. I tracked gasoline. I tracked other transportation expenses. I
Mhm.
tracked groceries. And what I was able to discover was where my money was going. And was
Mhm.
I spending in alignment with where
Mhm.
I wanted it to go? Was I
Mhm.
spending in alignment with the goals I wanted to achieve?
Right.
And I literally only took 5 to 10 seconds every time I spent money.
Mm.
And so, these are the
You're
kinds
more
of
consciously aware of it too, right? Then you can be like,
oh, absolutely.
this, do I need this Starbucks latte or can I go without it?
Yeah. I
Right.
mean, you're right. It's the questions you ask yourself
Mhm.
that can transform your situation. And a question would be something like, is this money in alignment with my goals? Or
Mhm.
if I didn't have to work for a living, is
Mhm.
this where I would spend my money?
Right.
And
Mhm.
it starts to point out what's really important to you. And those questions, like you said, Michelle, are really important.
Yeah, that's interesting. I live off the grid right now, and so like the nearest Starbucks from us is probably about 45-minute drive or an hour, which is a great thing because I notice when I go into town, like I overindulge in those things. So I'm quite happy they're so far away for normal day-to-day living. And that's a great thing to keep in mind. Yeah, just the small spending that adds up to a lot at the end of the day.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
incredible how much it can end up being at the
Oh,
end of the day.
I remember, as an example, I wasn't tracking the money I was giving my kids because I
Mm,
didn't think it was enough to bother tracking.
yeah.
And for some reason, I decided, well, I might as well find out what it is. The kids need this for school, they need that for school. It turns out it was $900 a month.
Wow. Yeah.
That was $900 a month I wasn't paying attention to.
Hmm. Fascinating.
And like I said, it only takes 5 to 10 seconds to
Yeah.
figure out where it's
What a
going.
good challenge for business owners too, to not only do it personally, but also in our business too. Like, what are we not paying attention to? Like, whether it's our, people that are we're outsourcing work to, and their invoices, or our, all those shiny object technology apps that we use to make our lives easier or whatever. So I think that's a really great challenge for entrepreneurs out there to if you're finding you're not making the money that you want to be making, that's a really great first step to take is to start looking at. Do you recommend tracking it for a certain amount of time or
Oh,
just
yes,
until,
yeah. I mean, a minimum 6 weeks,
yeah.
because it gives you what a typical month might look like.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out once I got into the habit of writing it down every time I spent money,
Mm-hmm.
I had done it for 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
and it took me a whole year to wean myself away from it. But the funniest part about that is that in terms of building an online business,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't conscious of where I was spending it because I'd given up that practice.
Yeah.
And I found I spent, well, I'm not sure if I should say how many hundreds of thousands of dollars. Uh, but the difference is at this point in my life,
Mm-hmm.
I can afford to do that because of what I did intelligently before.
Right, which is super smart. So for us entrepreneurs who are out there making money from providing our own products and services, would you have any suggestions of ways that we can build our wealth in a more strategic way?
Yeah, well, I say it often. I say wealth creation is a team sport, not a solo sport. And a lot of entrepreneurs are operating by themselves. They're making their own decisions. They're
Mm-hmm.
not bouncing things off of anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
At least if they have a coach, that's a
Mm-hmm.
good start. And the other advantage is if you don't want to do that, you find someone else in your same business and you create an accountability partner. You
Mm-hmm.
bounce ideas off of them. What products or services are they using? What's working for them? What's not working for them? Because if you talk about where you're spending your money and they
Mm-hmm.
talk about where they're spending their money and you're supporting each other, you're both going to make better decisions.
Right. Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah.
Really good.
One of the other things in terms of tracking money, I've started doing this because I found my time was not going to where I wanted it to go. And I started doing a time study. I don't know if your broadcast is anyone's going to see this, but here's a time study of what I'm doing every 15 minutes.
Okay, so it's a
Am I
checklist for those of you that are just listening. Rennie's showing us a checklist of everything he's doing, and every 15 minutes he's got a checklist. This is where he's showing you where he's spending his time.
Exactly. How much time am I spending prospecting? How much am I time spending supporting clients or reading or developing new products or whatever? And so it's not like, well, my second wife went through a program called Overeaters Anonymous, which had her write down every time she ate something, just like I write down every time I spend money. That creates the consciousness of what's really going on. So whether you're tracking your time, whether you're tracking your money, that consciousness allows you to wake up to what's really happening and make different choices because now you have real information to base it on.
Right. I love that. That's great. And now that your business has created the wealth that you want, now I think interesting. I want to talk about for a second, like what you do. You actually now donate all the proceeds for your wealth on income.com. 100% goes to charity, which is the sheltertosoldier.org charity. Do you want to talk about that for a sec before we wrap up?
Oh, absolutely. I want to talk about that because I'm more interested in talking about what I'm doing than what I do. And what I'm doing in terms of donating 100% of the profits from my book and programs to Shelter to Soldier, because this is an organization that is rescuing dogs from environments where they would have been euthanized or died and training them as service animals for soldiers who've come back with post-traumatic stress disorder or traumatic brain injuries. And in the US, I don't know what it's like in Canada, but in the US, our service members, our veterans are committing suicide at the rate of almost 1 an hour.
Wow.
And not one service member who's got their service dog has committed suicide.
Wow. So
2
important.
lives are being saved by this one charity.
Wow.
And so, so far we've donated tens of thousands of dollars. 6 dogs have been trained. The vet bills have been covered. The food, the housing, the veterans have been trained how to work with the dog. So 6 dogs and 6 veterans have not died based on what we've donated.
Yeah, that's amazing. And if anything, like, and how good does that feel to be able to do that? Because you've built the wealth that you need in order to live, and now you have this ability to give back. Where I think a lot of people are so worried that, about making money in their lives that they don't ever make the money that they can then spend on giving backward. But you need to make money to give back. So I think that's an important thing that a lot of people miss, right?
Yeah, you don't have to become a multimillionaire to give back to charity.
True,
But I found that the real juice is when I'm able to make the contributions to various charities. And Shelter to Soldier is the big one for me. I mean, people can donate their time. People can do any kind of fundraisers. And I was on a conversation the other day with someone we probably both know, Cammie Baker. And she was talking about how to leverage the philanthropic interests you have to grow your business.
Yes.
And after talking with Cammie, I realized, oh my gosh, I could actually use this to grow my business.
Definitely. I used to do that in the fitness industry. Everything I did in the fitness industry was aligned with a like a social cause, either the food bank or
Hmm.
we did a shoe drive for people who didn't have shoes in the downtown east side, and everything was aligned with some social cause. And it was interesting what happened in that business is that it grew very fast, and there was a lot of media attention on it as well. So not only is it good for your soul, good for your heart, good for the cause, but also good for your business too, right?
Exactly, because those acts are leveraging what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and much easier. I think people are more interested in knowing about what you're doing in life than about
Yeah.
what you do.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great. Thank you, Rennie, so much for being with us today. And for those of you guys that are interested in following up with Rennie, it's wealthonanyincome.com. Is your website correct? And where
Yes.
else can they find out more about you and follow your charity?
Yeah, they'll find out about the charity there. And actually, if they go to wealthonanyincome.com/gift,
Mm.
they can actually pick up a book that I just finished writing. That's the 30 Attitudes of the Wealthy.
I love it. That's great. So, guys, you heard that. It was wealthonanyincome.com/gift. And we will also put that in the show notes too. So, thank you, Rennie, for being with us today. It's been a pleasure getting to know more about you and about this wonderful cause you have and some great mindset shifts that I hope all of our entrepreneurs that are listening are going to take into consideration as they too go on to build their wealth and also give back in the world. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Welcome.